Eri is such a plot device. She only exists to further the plot. What a bad character. Wow, this is doing numbers. You've probably seen many posts just like this one about all kinds of shows or manga. The term plot device is frequently used as a criticism lobbed at things that people just don't like. For some reason, everybody has to have some objective reason to not like something instead of simply saying that they don't like its inclusion in the story or how something was handled. It's okay to just not like things. But let's analyze the term plot device in particular. Plot device is a term that has garnered a strong negative connotation over the years. It's used to criticize, usually characters and their role in the story. But what does plot device actually mean? Something material, object, person, or something immaterial like a situation that moves a story forward. That's a pretty broad definition, isn't it? So actually, when people criticize these characters for being plot devices, they're correct. They are in fact used to move a story forward. Where the point of contention comes is whether or not that is a criticism that should be lobbed at a series. Under that definition of a plot device, isn't nearly everything a plot device? Yeah, everything in a story serves the story. That is the purpose of all of the characters you see on screen or read about. Everything is for the story. That means that using plot device as a criticism holds no weight, as that just means the characters are serving their purpose. What are people usually criticizing when they call something a plot device? There's a few things. 1. Existing only as a plot device. 2. Existing as a deus ex machina. Or 3. Existing to undo consequences. In order to examine these claims, let's take a look at the character most frequently targeted with plot device as a criticism in My Hero Academia.
Someone else is about to die because of you! Is that really what you want? Eri?
For the unfamiliar, Eri is a child who has a dangerous power. The power to rewind. She was taken by the young head of the Yakuza in order to engineer her blood to use her power to make quirk-destroying bullets. Season 4's first core is all about getting her back and shows us the trials and tribulations of that. Near the end of the arc, Deku uses her power to be able to constantly sustain 100% without facing any consequences. This single action has forever made people write her off as simply a plot device. Let's take a look at the main 3 points I introduced earlier in reference to Eri.
It's all my fault. All the terrible stuff that happened. I'm so sorry. I know that you lost your power because you were protecting me, Lemillion.
Saying a character only exists to further the plot is an interesting criticism to make when all parts of a story serve the purpose of progressing the plot. Progressing the plot is the most important part of a story. Progressing the plot is the reason for a character to exist. You don't criticize All Might for starting the story as a plot device, and you don't criticize Sukuna's fingers as a plot device for JJK, when they both definitely act as one. So I don't necessarily understand why Eri gets criticized here. Characters can also exist to further other characters. Redestro, Overhaul, and Mirio all serve as obstacles or narrative foils for our protagonist and antagonist. Yet they don't lose any value as characters just because they serve their purpose in the story. They're all well-developed, interesting characters, but no matter how much you develop a character, you cannot remove them from their role in the story. You would not criticize a protagonist for being the protagonist, so why should we criticize Eri for being a plot device? Or Redestro for being an obstacle for Shigaraki? They serve their function. Eri becomes the basis of an entire arc, which has said arc progress characters and establish new threats. If Eri only exists for the plot, then I think she did a pretty good job at it. For the unfamiliar, a deus ex machina is defined as an immaterial situational resolution plot device that is defined as an unexpected power or event, saving a seemingly hopeless situation. The very famous power of friendship trope is an example of a deus ex machina. It can also get conflated with an ass pull, usually meaning something that happens with no explanation. When people use deus ex machina in reference to Eri, what they're generally referring to is her role in the final fight against Overhaul. Unfortunately for them, that's not really how it works. To be a deus ex machina plot device, there would have to be no prior explanation before this scene. However, throughout the Overhaul arc, we slowly learn things that Eri's quirk has caused. We know that Eri's quirk is something that allows bullets to be made to delete quirks. We find out shortly before the final fight that her power is rewind. We know that she rewound her father into nothingness, knew that Overhaul spent a large chunk of time and money reworking it specifically to target the quirk factor. The fact that we learn these things beforehand and certainly have breadcrumbs for what her quirk actually is makes this by definition not a deus ex machina. Just so happens that a rewind quirk works really well with somebody who shatters their bones to use their full power. Her unknown power is the basis for an entire story arc. I hesitate to call it a deus ex machina plot device.
If Eri's quirk becomes usable and she learns how to control it, then I bet we'll have our invincible man back in no time.
Man, that'd be awesome, right? Guess we'll see, though.
I believe this is actually a fair worry to have about a character that can rewind things. However, I think that the Paranormal Liberation War arc that just wrapped up is a perfect demonstration as to why we won't have to worry about this. Plot devices existing to undo consequences should only be judged on a case-by-case basis, and in Horikoshi's case, her quirk was used to restore Mirio in a battle where people are losing limbs. Nothing in a story should be done for no reason, and we can infer that Mirio being brought back wasn't just for the hype of bringing him back, but to take Eri out of her potential role of undoing all of the massive consequences of this arc. We know that her horn stores up the energy required to use her quirk, and it's shown to us shortly before PLW that her horn is huge and hurting her, and after bringing back Mirio, her horn is all used up. It's possible other authors would handle this differently, but plot devices do not exist in a vacuum, and must be judged by the works they're in, or by the authors that create these plot devices. And in My Hero Academia, I don't really have any fear of Horikoshi needlessly writing off consequences. Now that we've gone through the above 3 points that people usually leverage against plot devices, let's take a look at a fan-favorite plot device. I'm using this character in particular because the author himself stated that he was made to progress the plot.
I'm not interested in training the next generation or anything, but I couldn't pass this up. Those of us who can fly should fly. There's no need to be stuck on the ground with everyone else.
Hawks' introduction was used primarily to advance the plot, as told by Horikoshi in this interview. I don't actually have a set process. When I was creating a stockpile of characters prior to being serialized, I began by visualizing their appearance or determining their powers. But recently, I created Hawks because I needed someone to fulfill a specific role for the sake of advancing the plot. And advance the plot he did. Hawks was crucial in returning the League of Villains to the forefront after the Overhaul and School Festival arcs, as he serves as a double agent for the Hero Public Safety Commission. So, Hawks only exists for the plot, as does every character, but doesn't serve as a Deus Ex Machina, and most certainly doesn't exist to undo consequences. I think you get the point that I'm trying to drive home here. Not all plot devices are created equal, and not all plot devices are inherently bad. I hope this video helps some of you understand what a plot device is, how they work, and how Eri as a character works to serve the story. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'll try to post somewhat frequently. After this video goes live, I'll make a tweet about it, and in the replies to that tweet will be a poll so you guys can vote on the next video. See ya!